Looking at Argenti, specifically from what we've seen in the stream, there is a good amount that I want to say in regards to how I feel about him and also his kit and what team he'll impact. By far, he is one of the more cut and dry characters when it comes to HuoHuo and Hanya and then Argenti. I do think Argenti is the more easier to explain, the more easier to talk about, just because his kit is very simple. In all honesty, the main gist of his kit comes from his talent. So let's go ahead and start talking about it. Let's go ahead and start talking about all the things that you want to hear. When it comes to his skill, is just hitting the whole wave pretty nice. The only thing that I'm kind of concerned with is that with the character that's going to be hitting all enemies no matter what, the scaling is usually a little bit lower just to compensate that you are hitting the full wave of enemies, and that's a lot of spread out damage. So usually the scalings are a little bit lower for that, because especially if you were to put this, for example, have Sela in one scenario, right? Having her doing a bunch of damage to one target versus Argenti hitting the full wave, you wouldn't want Argenti to be doing Sela damage to the full wave, because that would just throw Sela away. So looking at what we have right now, Argenti might not have the craziest amount of single target damage, so he will by far most likely fall off in that department. I do think he is mainly centered on AoE fights, and especially so because looking at his talent, is going to benefit him from fighting multiple characters at once. So if you're fighting more than 5 characters, or you're fighting 5 characters, you're going to get a lot of these stacks that are going to give you energy and also crit rate. And then looking at the if you're fighting less, you're going to get less of these stacks. So you definitely want to have him in those AoE situations. I do think his single target performance might be a bit low when looking at other options. But talking about Argenti and his ultimate, which we'll get to the talent fully in a second, you are able to pick and choose how much energy he uses, whether it be half if I'm not wrong or full. And with using the half version, it's just a normal AoE hit, the full wave, all that type of stuff. And then when it comes to his enhanced version or his full amount of energy, you are going to end up doing more damage to random enemies throughout your ultimate. And I hope this RNG kind of like centers itself or something, because I don't want it to hit trash mobs and then the boss is there with a lot more health than he should. So hopefully, from what we've seen in the stream, it is RNG. Hopefully it's not too bad in all honesty, because that would suck. But looking at the talent again, and like I said, it's going to like you hitting a lot of enemies at once, being in those AoE situations, and giving yourself crit rate, giving yourself energy. This is a really nice thing, and this makes Argenti very easy to build, which is a really nice thing to have as the DPS, especially for a character that might end up getting crit rate or crit damage traces, and then having the crit rate come from his talent. Very easy to build. He's gonna have the physical set, so he's gonna have a lot of attack most likely to give when it comes to him having his relics. And then you have the subsets and all that. Not too bad of a character to have as your first, as a fun character, as a character for overall grinding, all that type of stuff. It's a pretty decent character, a very nice character. The same way Blade doesn't really need to be hard invested on, just because he has so many different sources of crit rate and crit damage through his light cone, the relics, his traces, all that type of stuff. Really nice character, really nice casual character in my honest opinion. But when it comes to him and how he's going to do versus a lot of the other characters, I'm not so excited. I'm very excited because Argenti looks really cool and his animations are by far some of the best in the game. But when you look at the physical options, the only reason I would say you would 1000% want Argenti is if you don't have a Clara. That would be the only reason. If you don't have a Clara and you really want a physical DPS, then I guess this would be a good case, because Clara, of course, has the really hard adjacent hitting, has a full wave skill, has the options to counterattack and be the tank for your team. These are really cool things. We don't have a lot of physical characters in the game right now. Of course, Hanya will be coming out, but she will be single target as well. So Argenti will be very nice if you want that physical DPS. But 1000%, a thing you should consider is that for Argenti, there's going to be characters, of course, or enemies that have multiple weaknesses, as all of them do. And with that other weakness, most likely you'll have a DPS in that element, and you'll just end up using them. There's really no reason to use Argenti specifically, unless you're trying to go for a full AoE clear, like maybe you're grinding XP mobs, or you're trying to get MOC done faster, or there's a stage where it's heavily AoE centered. Then yeah, then you might want Argenti. But I just think there's a lot of characters right now that do so much adjacent damage and do a lot of nice combos with Resurgence, like Sele, or when I was talking about the adjacent damage, like with Don Hung or Jing Liu, or Kafka's detonations hitting the full AoE or the adjacent ones. There's a lot of different scenarios or situations where Argenti really doesn't stand out. And I know I meme about this build a lot, and it's something I'm definitely going to try, which is going to be fun, which is going to be Break Effect Argenti. I know it's a pretty big meme build, and I'm just going to do that just to try out with Kafka. But a really nice scenario to think about is how many stages are going to be physical full wave, right? And at that, how am I going to break all of them all at the same time? Because of course, everyone has their own toughness bar meter, and especially the bosses, they have a lot more compared to the trash mobs they spawn in with. So there's just a lot of things that go wrong with Argenti's kit. He will be a very nice character for casual play to, you know, speed up your grinding, all that type of stuff. I'm pretty sure he'll be very strong in Simulated Universe, 1000%. He'll make it a lot easier to grind out because you don't have to worry about those bosses and dealing with all that stuff. Just buff him like crazy with blessings and GG, you're done in like 1 minute. But thinking about all the things that you could talk about, when Argenti, he has a very cut and dry kit. And with him being so AoE centered, he's going to fall off in single target damage or even blast target damage with 3 targets. He's really only going to want to be in those 5 target scenarios, and of course we don't know 1000% his performance. He might be very strong, his scalings might be very high, and he can do a lot of damage to 1 target, but more likely than not, with characters that can hit a full wave for the majority of their kit, their scaling is by far going to compensate for the fact that they are doing that. While, you know, characters that hit single target do get very high scalings because they're only taking down 1 character at a time, and those other mobs or maybe even the boss, they're not getting damaged at the same time as everyone else. So of course the scalings have to be a little bit higher for characters like Cele, for characters that need to hit only 1 character, and for characters like Argenti, Herd, all of them, their scalings aren't really the best in the world because they are able to hit every single character, and that has its merit as well because you will be able to do physical weakness damage to all these enemies. But every character or enemy has a weakness that's not just physical. We don't have mono weakness on an enemy. Usually it's 2 or 3, most likely 3. When it comes to talking about these enemies and what their weakness to, you'll pull out something for that. There's a lot of characters in the game that do very well, and I just don't think Argenti by far just fits into what I was expecting an Erudition character to do. Right now, in my honest opinion, I'm thinking of our Erudition as a shield breaking sub DPS type build or role, and Argenti kind of threw that out the water with him just doing AoE, which is not a bad thing. I know Erudition is a big AoE centered path, but looking at his kit, and most likely with the scenarios we're envisioning where, you know, we're just saying, like I said, maybe he might have lower scalings because he's hitting the full wave multiple times. Not multiple times, but he's hitting the full wave for the majority of his skills and his ultimates and all that type of stuff. His scalings might be a little bit lower. If it's higher, good. That means he's really good. He's going to be very strong. If he's able to hit a single target for a lot of damage, that's a good thing. I will love that for Argenti. But I'm just being realistic. Most likely, it might be a little bit harder to clear content with just Argenti if they're single target, if they're 3 targets, just because his talent won't be proccing the max that it could each turn or each attack. And that kind of hurts Argenti very bad when you can have other characters like Kafka, Cele, Jing Yuan, Dan Heng, Jing Liu. There's so many different characters that do so much damage, and Argenti, I think, is going to be a very nice luxury pull, or a very nice like try to have fun or casual type pull, rather than like a brand new character that's going to break the meta. I think this by far is one of the characters that is not like pushing themselves, forcing themselves into the meta to try to make themselves a staple in the team. I really do think Argenti by far might be one of the first characters that is just there to be there, just for AoE damage, because I don't think there's a lot of situations where the characters we have right now, like I said, Jing Yuan, Jing Liu, Dan Heng, these characters are able to do massive AoE damage and shred whatever character they're fighting against. Like, by far, these characters can do anything they want. They do so much adjacent damage that it might as well be a full wave clear at that point, because you have so many combos that you can do with maybe killing some trash mobs on one move, then your next move kills the next set of trash mobs, and then you're just left with the boss. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff definitely I want to look with Argenti. Hopefully he's not as bad as I'm expecting him to be. He does have really nice design, really nice kit when it comes to AoE censored fights, but with all the options we have right now, I do think Argenti is just going to be that character for luxury pull or for people that like the design, which is 100% fine. I think that's a really good thing for people to play the characters that they want. I'm definitely going to be summoning for him because he looks super fun. And he looks super cool with all his animations. I think he's by far some of the coolest animations in the game. But man, Argenti is just, as a 5-star, he's good that, you know, characters aren't like forcing their way into the meta. But, you know, it would have been nice to him have a little bit more in his talent and stuff. I think he's just a very self-sufficient character, but isn't game breaking. There's nothing wrong with that. But with the options we have right now, and especially with the rerun of Silverwolf and stuff like that, there's a lot of options for newer players and veterans alike that looking at these characters like HuoHuo, like Silverwolf, like Ruin Mei, who's coming out in the next patch. There's a lot of really crazy stuff that we're looking forward to, and Argenti right now is like at the bottom of the totem pole But like I said, nothing wrong with people that want to summon for him. I'm summoning for him, but I do think he's gonna suffer a little bit if what I'm saying is true and correct. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. See you on the next one, and peace.